TWT slaying.
Peace and blessings to the brothers and sisters over at Teotw Ministries. My name is Brother Eric Potts, and what I want to do is share a testimony as to how the Most High opened up my eyes to who we are as a people, and how He gave me the revelation of us being a generation that He's going to deliver according to the prophecy in the book of Genesis. Back in I want to say it was around 2002, 2003. I was in my early 20s. I had just graduated high school a few years prior. I graduated high school in the year 2000. And after I finished school, the year after I graduated high school, I went right into college for maybe 2 years or so. I completed 2 years. And after that, I started working. And it was during that time period when I started working that the Most High opened up my understanding. And the way that happened was it was during the time back when I don't know if you can recall when George W. Bush was running for president against John Kerry. And that was actually the first presidential election that I participated in. That was the first time that I voted. Around that time, I started to go through a lot of changes mentally and spiritually, because shortly prior to that, my oldest sister was murdered also. And that was taken pretty tough on my family. That was a real big blow to my family. And she left 3 daughters behind, my 3 nieces, in which the youngest one just here recently passed away about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago. But after that happened, I just started to go through a change mentally and spiritually. You know, this isn't something that I planned on happening. It just happened. And during that time, I was into a lot of reading and trying to understand the environment that I was in as far as voting and different things of that nature. I just started to develop an interest in those things. I started reading more. I started to, like I said, open myself up to understand more about my surroundings and the environment that we're in as Black people. And during that time, me and a buddy of mine, we were renting a 2-bedroom apartment together. And he was attending college and I was just working. And on my way to work, I would have to cut through a grocery store parking lot, a Whole Foods store parking lot, in order to get to my job, and it almost never failed. Every time I cut through this parking lot, I would see the same two brothers out in the parking lot. They worked for the grocery store, and they were pushing carts. And I would see the brothers almost every time when I was going to work. I would stop and I would fellowship with them on my way to work. And one day, everything went as routine, going to work. I stopped, talked to the brothers, and as I'm going to work, headed to my the train station to get to work, I just had a thought come over me. Like my spirit got real heavy, and I had a thought come over me, and I asked God a question because I was a believer in God at that time. You know, I just didn't really have a lot of understanding about things. So I asked God, I said, God, if you're real and you can hear me, I want to know, why is it that everywhere that I go and everywhere that I've been, the people who look like me are on the bottom? And the reason I asked God that question is because I was fellowshipping with these brothers, and I think that both of them at the time were in school, if I'm not mistaken. And at the time I was working and everything, and prior to that moment in my life, I had done some traveling, been I had been a few places rather, in and out of the country, because I played basketball and that kind of thing. So that allowed me to travel. But it never failed, man. Everywhere that I've been, everybody, all the black people everywhere that I've been was always on the bottom. And I got to a point in my life where I started to question God about that. And at the time, the job I was working at was an engineering plant. I think it was mostly Vietnamese and Japanese people working there, but it was a few whites and it was very few blacks. And when I say few, I mean FEW, few. It was three black brothers worked there, and I was one of them. The other two were engineers, and I just worked security at the time. And when I asked God that question, I went to work, and there was a brother at the job by the name of James Stinson. Him and I used to talk a lot, you know, have conversations about different things. And we were having a conversation one day on break, standing outside, and this was around the election time. And we were talking about things and you know, just kind of reflecting on what was going on in the direction that everything was going in. And a lot of the stuff that he was saying was intriguing to me. And so I asked him, I said, hey, bro, where are you getting all this information from? And I just remember him saying that a lot of it is recorded history. And then he said that a lot of this stuff is in the Bible. And when he said that, it was like a divine revelation went off, like a light bulb went off in my head. And I got curious about that. And he gave me a audio tape to listen to. And the title of the tape was Black History Told by the Prophets. And when he gave me the tape, you know how it is when you give somebody something and they take it home and they sat it down, don't really listen to it. That's kind of what I did initially, but then I felt convicted. I didn't want to give this brother his tape back and not listen to it and make it as though I did. So I put the tape in and I listened to it, and it was probably at that moment in my life the best move that I ever made, because once I listened to that tape, after I listened to the tape, rather, I had a full understanding of who we were as a people and why we were in the condition we in. I didn't know how to navigate through the scriptures right away, but after listening to that tape, I had a full understanding, and I knew that that was the Most High answering my question as to why is it that we as a people are on the bottom in every facet of life, be it economics, be it religion, be it education, military, socially, whatever. Why are we at the bottom, and then why are we made the face of every form of degradation in this society? These were the things that I asked the Most High. And within 3 days' time, through another brother, I had the understanding, and I ended up linking up with the brother more. He invited me to the Bible study class. The camp was called the Israel of God, which I no longer attend the camp right now, but I attended the camp for 5 years, and by the grace of the Most High, I learned everything that I needed to learn. And I will always have the utmost respect for the elders and the brothers at the Israel of God. Even though I left the class, the Israel of God has not left my heart in terms of the people and understanding who we are and what the Most High has planned for us. And now, real quick, I want to just kind of share how I came into the understanding of us being a generation that will be delivered according to the 400-year prophecy in Genesis. This was a little while after I left the Bible study camp. I had moved to Jefferson City, Missouri for about a year and a half with one of my cousins. I went up there, worked for a little bit. Things didn't really work out, so I ended up moving back to Texas. And one day I was at my grandmother's house, and at my grandmother's house, she has this book collection. She keeps a lot of books, and my grandmother, she used to get on me a lot about taking her books, especially after I started understanding the history of who we are and everything. A lot of those books started to appeal to me more at that point, and so she used to get on me about taking her books and stuff like that. But one day I was over her house visiting, and she had just gotten a new book. It was a Dr. Martin Luther King book, a real thick book. And in this book, it has all of his speeches and interviews. And it was just a random thing. I picked it up, thought it was interesting, wanted to see what it was about. And I turned to it, opened it up, and I turned to an interview that he did back in like 1968, but not 1968, but 1964, 65, somewhere up in there. But I'm reading the interview, and the the news reporter asked his question to Dr. King. So I read through the question, and when it got to Dr. King's response, his opening statement, he started with saying that the first Africans were brought to the shores of America in the year 1619. And when I read that, the same thing that happened with the brother when he told me that a lot of the stuff was in the Bible was the same thing that happened then. It was like a light bulb went off. And when that happened, I immediately reflected on the scripture in Genesis. At the time, I didn't know exactly where it was, but I typed it in my Google, and the Google brought it up to me in Genesis 15. And when I saw that, it was like my spirit got enlightened, and I knew that the Most High was telling me right then to get ready, that we are the people that's going to get delivered according to the 400-year prophecy in Genesis. Now, mind you, I come out of a Bible study class where they teach that the 400-year prophecy has already been fulfilled. So the whole time I was learning that information, I never questioned it. It was never a thought. And even when I was reading this book, it wasn't anything that I was looking for. It was like the Most High had just opened up my understanding right then. And this was back in 2012. And from then up to this point, I've been researching it, studying it more, and even sharing it with people close to me. And after coming across different ministries on YouTube, particularly your ministry, along with some others, man, it's like uh, I feel like the work that you guys do is divine, and it's inspired by the Holy Spirit. And everything that the Most High has said that he was going to do in his word, we see it happening. We see prophecy being fulfilled. We see the Most High destroying the foundation of this nation, which is its economy. We see uproars happening all around this nation and in other parts of the world, particularly the European nations. And so, long story short, man, I just wanted to share my testimony and say that I'm on board when it comes to the Most High and His truth. I'm on board with the waking up of the people, and I'm on board with Teotw Ministries. I've been a supporter and a follower of this ministry for about a year and a half or so, and I found that the information that you brothers share is very edifying. It's very inspiring. It's almost like, for me, whenever I see a new video pop up, it's like I get glad. You know what I mean? It's sometimes I feel like when a new video pop up, that's my evening right there. All I need is something to eat, something good to eat, something good to drink, and let me relax and sit back and watch what these brothers have to present. And so, on that note, that's my testimony. I pray that the Most High will continue to deliver his people. I pray that the word will be fulfilled. I pray for you, brothers. I pray that everything you do will resonate in the hearts and the minds of our people as it does mine, And on that note, I just want to say peace and blessings. And I look forward to this deliverance, man. I don't really know how everything is going to play out, but I'm definitely keeping my eyes open. I'm definitely alerting the people as much as I can, those around me on my job and my family, and I pray that the Most High will continue to preserve us so that we could see his deliverance and so that we could go into the wilderness and serve the God of Israel, the God of Jacob, the way that we intend, the way that he intends to be served. And so on that note, I'm going to go ahead and close out. I want to say peace and blessings and thank you for your time. Peace, Israel.